At least 3,000 years ago, when people in India and Egypt were still busy with rituals and offerings to the gods, praying for a prosperous life and bountiful harvests, a disaster was silently approaching. Instead of being rewarded with mild weather or at least a refreshing rain, a terrifying epidemic appeared, claiming the lives of hundreds of millions of people. At first, those who fell sick thought they just had the flu. Cough, headache, fever, and fatigue. But after only about 12 days, the virus began to fiercely attack the bone marrow, spleen, and lymph nodes. The patient suffered excruciating pain, their entire body covered with dense red spots, which then turned into blistering, pus-filled lesions. Around 30% of those infected died. That was the very first outbreak of smallpox in human history that we know of. This disease was so horrifying that in some cultures, people even deified it, creating gods specifically associated with smallpox, like the god Supona in the Yoruba religion of West Africa, or the goddess Shitala in Hinduism, the deity who cures smallpox. Smallpox spread terror across continents. After that first outbreak, smallpox did not stop. It followed trade routes and spread widely across Asia, Africa, and Europe. By around the 1500s, when Europeans set foot in the Americas, smallpox also crossed the ocean with them. The indigenous people there had absolutely no immunity to this disease, and the result was devastating. The Aztec Empire collapsed under the weight of the epidemic. The Inca emperor died of smallpox. The Inca people were almost wiped out in a very short time. In just 1 year, from 1519 to 1520, around 30% of Mexico's population died, equivalent to about 5 to 8 million people. In Europe, it is estimated that in the 18th century, smallpox killed more than 60 million people. And in the 20th century, across the entire world, more than 300 million people lost their lives to this monstrous disease. Unwilling to surrender, humanity was forced to stand up and find a way to fight back against smallpox. The earliest methods of treatment, or more accurately, primitive prevention, appeared around 2,000 years ago. Some communities in Asia realized that those who had already had smallpox very rarely got it a second time. From that observation, they came up with a bold idea. They scraped scabs from the skin lesions of people currently suffering from smallpox, then blew the powdered scabs into the noses of healthy people. These people would later develop symptoms similar to smallpox, but usually milder, and the mortality rate dropped significantly. This method later became known as variolation, or inoculation. Over many centuries, by around the 1700s, doctors continued to improve it. They took scabs or pus from the lesions of infected patients, then introduced it into the skin of healthy individuals through small cuts on the arm. This method was more effective and less painful than before, but about 3% of those who were variolated still died. With that rate, it was still far from truly safe. The real turning point only appeared in 1768, when an English doctor named John Fuster noticed that people who had previously contracted cowpox, a mild disease transmitted from cows to humans with symptoms similar to smallpox but far less dangerous, did not get smallpox. From this observation, a series of experiments in England and France were carried out using cowpox to prevent smallpox, with very promising results. Those who had been exposed to cowpox did not develop smallpox. However, it was not until 1796 that another English doctor named Edward Jenner truly popularized and perfected this method. On May 14, 1796, Jenner took cowpox pus from the hand of a milkmaid named Sarah Nelms and then inoculated it into the arm of an 8-year-old boy named James Phipps, the son of a gardener. The boy developed only a few mild symptoms such as fatigue and discomfort, but recovered quickly. On July 1, 1796, Jenner returned. This time, he inoculated the boy with real smallpox material. Amazingly, the boy did not develop any smallpox symptoms at all. Jenner continued to repeat the experiment on many other people, including his own 10-month-old son, and the result was always the same. Those who had been inoculated with cowpox did not get smallpox. From there, he completed the smallpox inoculation technique and named it vaccination, derived from the Latin word vaccinus, which means related to cows. This is the very root of the modern vaccine concept we use today. Technically speaking, Jenner's vaccination procedure was very simple. Take a small amount of cowpox pus from a sick cow, do some basic preparation, and then inoculate this material into a healthy individual. Because the cowpox virus and smallpox virus have relatively similar structures, once the immune system has trained on cowpox, it will recognize and destroy the smallpox virus as well when it enters the body. Vaccination. This inoculation technology was then adopted on a large scale and continuously developed. By 1967, the World Health Organization, or WHO, officially launched a massive vaccination program with the goal of eradicating smallpox from the planet. And that campaign achieved a historic result. Smallpox was completely wiped out in the wild. The last natural case of smallpox was recorded in October 1977 in Somalia, Africa. The patient was a 23-year-old man named Alimau Malin. Today, the smallpox virus no longer exists freely in the community, but is stored only under extremely strict security conditions at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, in Atlanta, Georgia, United States, and at the State Research Center for Virology and Biotechnology, Vector, in the Russian Federation. In 2019, there was an explosion at the Vector facility, but according to statements from Russian authorities, there were no dangerous biological materials inside the laboratory at that time, and the smallpox virus remained safely contained. Up to the present day, smallpox vaccines are still being produced, mainly to help prevent monkeypox and to serve as a shield in strategies to prevent biological warfare.